We've come to the time when we prepare ourselves to enter into prayer, and I invite you to bring to mind those with whom you would like to hold in prayer. And if you would like to, you may speak their names aloud. For these loved ones, we hold the highest truth for them and for ourselves. Seeing each other and as whole and holy children of the one true source. We continue to claim their good for them and us as we affirm, I live in harmony with the earth. This is a reading from today's daily word. In 2004, when Wangari Maathai was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in Kenya through the Green Belt movement, in her acceptance lecture she said, "We are called to assist the earth to heal her wounds and in the process to heal our own. Indeed, to embrace the whole creation in all its diversity, beauty, and wonder. I am part of a beautiful web of life, intricately woven so that my actions impact the entire web. I am a good steward of the earth's resources, and I am a good steward of my own body. Centered in divine wisdom, I use what I need in ways that support the renewal of the earth. I experience a sense of peace, living in harmony with the earth." And from Genesis chapter 1, verse 12, "The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit, with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good." And now I invite you to join me in singing Surely the Presence.
power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power, one power, one power. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. The different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. Oh, it's the power of the love in you and me. One power, oh, one power, it's what we are. One power, one power. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby, the serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon for its love that's most deep. It's one power. It's one power. What we are is one power. It's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
Well, I'm so glad to be here again. I had the opportunity to meet with some of your board members last week and realize all the love and the energy that's gone into making this a center for spiritual growth in this community. and how important it is. I also want to say this morning as I begin that this is sort of a very special day for me, because in my 60 years and some more of ministry, I have never on a Sunday morning stood before the group without a tie on. And somebody here is to blame for that. I was here last Sunday attending the service, and I was here with just my coat on as I am now and with Levi's on. And he came up to me and said, "You know, you are Nevada dress-up." He said, "That's Nevada dress-up." And I thought, hey, I like that. And so I've left the tie off. I'm thinking about coming in when I think I'm speaking in 2 weeks again. Am I? Yeah. Am I? Yeah, she looks surprised. Maybe I'm not. Anyway, next time I come, I'll be wearing Levi's. I go all the way. I don't want to push the envelope, though, because, you can't push the envelope. It's stationary. Somebody sent me a bunch of those last week, and so I'll share them with you as we go along. As we've already shared, this is Earth Day, and I think it's very appropriate for our subject because I'm talking to you about the day that the dinosaurs died. How many of you are aware of the fact that there was a time when the dinosaurs were wiped off the earth? Yeah. And of the 5, altogether there have been 5 major extinctions in the history of the world that we know of. How many of you are familiar with that? Good. Well, you all know all this. Is there anything left to say? I think there is, and I share it because I have very deep feelings about this particular subject. I had talked about the fact that I felt that the extinction of the dinosaurs were very much a part of God's plan for the earth. But the first time I talked about that, it was based on a general feeling among scientists that possibly the dinosaurs had been destroyed due to an asteroid, but nobody had ever found any evidence of such an asteroid. But about 6 months ago, I was watching Nova on television, and it said the day the dinosaurs died. And it was such a marvelous sharing of what the scientists really know now that happened. And indeed, there was a day, some 66 million years ago, that an asteroid hit the Earth and wiped out the dinosaurs. I've mentioned 5 major extinctions that we've had through the years. 4 of those 5 were basically things that happened very gradually. Either there was an ice age that gradually came over the Earth, or there was incredible volcanic action around the Earth that gradually destroyed the atmosphere. But 66 million years ago, there was an asteroid that struck the Earth, and in that day, in that single day, most of the dinosaurs were wiped out on the Earth. There's some question about maybe it took a little bit longer, but most seem to be in agreement that it was so incredible, the impact of that asteroid, that it literally wiped out a species overnight. The understanding of that event has to do with one of the basic questions that has sort of haunted the religious philosophers through the years, and that is, does God ever interfere in the affairs of men? Does God ever interfere in the affairs of mankind or humankind? I think the last time I talked to you about the fact that one of the greatest things that I've learned in my spiritual journey is that God is absolutely available to every one of us all the time. I think I talked to you about the GPS system, did I? The God positioning system, which is like the automobile system, which is a global positioning system, and works the same way. Wherever you are, at any time, you have a direct connection to God, to Spirit. And most of us don't know that so much that we feel absolutely at peace about our lives. But we're learning, and that's what our life journey is about, is to learn how real that connection is and how we are made in that image and likeness of the God mind that is constantly supporting us. So I've leaned so much of my ministry on the fact that we have this personal relationship to God. But when I saw that Nova production that totally affirmed the reality of the wipeout of the dinosaurs in one day, I realized that God not only is personal to us, but God indeed is in charge of the unfoldment of this world. Some of you have been with me when I talked about the concept of evolution that we have in unity. And I particularly shared the Teilhard view and said that life has a purpose. The earth has a purpose. And oh, what a wonderful thing it would be on Earth Day if all around the earth everybody was saying the most important thing about the earth is to know this is God's earth and that God has a purpose. The earth has a purpose. As we shared in the classes that I had on evolution, we have been able to understand that through biblical insights and through the work of Jesus, that we realize every one of us is made in the image and likeness of God, and that the process of earth and its purpose is to give us a three-dimensional place in which we can become consciously aware ourselves that we are made in the image and likeness of God, that we have these God qualities of mind, that we have the capability of living our lives as triumphantly, as beautifully, and as wonderful as Jesus lived his life. And so that's life's purpose, is to give humanity the opportunity to grow in that understanding. When you understand that, you do not fall into the category that our scientists in general do when they talk about the day of the dinosaurs' deceased extinction. That is, they say it was a horrible accident. It was a horrible accident that this happened. As I watched the presentation, and I encourage you, you'll find if you want to look it up on Nova, you can see the presentation that I've drawn on to share this lesson about the last day of the dinosaurs. But when you look at all of the facts that are involved in what actually happened that day, and I'm going to share some of these facts with you, which is sort of like, well, we could have gone to school to hear all that, but it all adds up to what I've said. God engineered the last day of the dinosaurs. The scientists don't even begin to think that way. First of all, they don't know that the earth has a purpose, and also they do not really realize the incredible focus that God energy can have to make anything happen. All things are possible. I may have told you this. When I say that, I always think of a wonderful woman that I met at Unity Village one time, and she was from São Paulo, Brazil. Very attractive woman. I just happened to notice it. She had beautiful ankles. And I had the occasion to visit with her, and I said, what brings you all the way from Brazil here? She said, well, I was born with a club foot. And she said, I had couple of surgeries. My parents took me to Europe for one surgery to straighten out my foot, and she said nothing helped. Matter of fact, it was worse. But she said, I always lived with the thought that someday God would heal me. And she said, one day somebody gave me a daily word, and I read about silent unity. And she said, I can remember I sat down at one night, I'd already gotten my robe, I was going to bed, but I wrote this letter to Silent Unity asking for the healing of my ankle, my foot. And she said, the mailbox was right on the corner near our house, so in my robe, I remember I went out and put the letter in the mailbox. She said, I went to bed that night, and she said, I woke up with this tremendous pain in my ankle. And she said, I jumped out of bed, and I looked down, and my foot was perfect. I've always loved this particular story because I had already looked at her feet, see, and her ankles, and I knew how perfect they were. And to realize she'd come all the way because she wanted to be where Silent Unity was. I tell you that story only because I know I've experienced so many people working with the healing need. Anything is possible that way. But let's talk about the dinosaurs again now. I say the scientists don't just call it a tragedy. They don't know that it has anything to do with the purpose of the earth. I've told you now, reminded you I should say, that the purpose of the earth is to allow us in a three-dimensional way to learn the wonder of our own being, how God has made us. And that this is a process that is obviously going on now over around 200 or 300,000 years since we humans have entered the scene. And so, because you and I know that, we have to say, why did God intercede in this? Because God doesn't normally do that. Matter of fact, I can't think of any other situation where I can say, yes, God moved the earth to make something happen. Why did it happen on this particular time? When you understand what I've said about evolution, you realize the world had gone astray in terms of its evolution. Because 66 million years ago, the dinosaurs ruled the earth. And what I learned that I had never known before, dinosaurs were everywhere on the earth. I always thought they were down in Arizona, maybe in Africa somewhere, in warm climates. They were everywhere. They were in the polar area of the world. And they came in all sizes and shapes. Some were like big teddy bears, only they looked like dinosaurs. Yeah. Only some of them were 130 feet long, 59 feet high. They ruled the earth. When we've studied evolution together, we have said that because evolution is the evolvement of the Christ idea, we're talking about idea, it was constantly building all the forms, physical forms of evolution to match its own growth. And we now know in hindsight that there was a period when the evolution, the Christ idea, went to work primarily on the brain, because it's the instrument for the mind to work through. Well, dinosaurs, the big ones, had heads that were 8 feet wide. Think it, as I share these dimensions, to try to get it in your head. 8 feet wide, the size of this head. Two things didn't match. One was we didn't need a brain 8 feet wide. Not that they had, I don't know the size of the dinosaur brain, probably wasn't very big. But it didn't match. But the big thing was, what had happened in evolution, it had gone to work on that aspect of consciousness, which is strength and power and authority. And so it had produced this earth controlled and governed by these mammoth animals. The biggest mammal at that time, they feel, was no bigger than a house cat. and would never get any bigger, because if they got any bigger, the dinosaurs could grab them. And yet, again, from hindsight, we know evolution was looking for the mammalian kind of life that would allow itself to express itself more perfectly, eventually to the primate, and then to the Homo sapiens, which is us. And so something had to be done, because evolution couldn't fulfill the purpose that it had on Earth as long as it was ruled by the dinosaurs. Well, let me share some other statistics for you. Say, well, okay, I can see the dinosaurs were a problem they need to get rid of, but I mean, was this God in action? Well, let me look at some more figures with you. How big was the asteroid that hit the Earth? Have you ever thought about that? Pretty big. It was probably 7 miles. 7 miles wide. Think in your head something, 7 miles. Don't let it just be a figure. Think, let's see if I travel 7 miles. It's quite a ways. Not quite half the distance to Reno. This piece of Earth is coming, as the scientists are able to figure it out now, at 40,000 miles an hour. 40,000 miles an hour. Pretty fast. It's so fast, there was obviously a blaze, a fire. It was a molten piece 7 miles wide coming at the Earth. When it hit the Earth, it created a impact that was the equivalent, they now feel, of 10 billion atomic bombs. Not 10 million, 10 billion atomic bombs, one time hitting the Earth. The crater that it made is 124 miles wide. That's as far as from here to Sacramento. And I want you to get that in your head again, not just say, oh, 124 miles. It was that big, going 40,000 miles an hour with a whammo of 10 billion atomic bombs. Okay, we got that in our head? There was a time, as you know, when all of the physical Earth on the face of the Earth was all joined as one. There was only one major continent. And then they began to break up. But as they broke up, the dinosaurs went to their various places with it. But the Earth was, as it is today, primarily water. We all know that, no? The Earth is primarily water. So here comes this asteroid going 40,000 miles an hour from where? Way, who knows how far out? 40,000 miles. What are the odds that it's going to hit water or the Earth? If you were a betting person, and none of you are here, but if you were, you would probably say, I have to go, it's going to hit the water. No, it didn't hit the water. It hit a place that put it almost in the center of the globe, the Yucatan Peninsula. And this is the clincher when I said, oh my gosh, how can anybody think that there wasn't a universal power behind this whole experience? The scientists have said, if it was 3 seconds earlier or 3 seconds later, it would have landed in the water. But it landed in that central area where it needed to be to have the impact that it needed to have. And it landed in a narrow strip of land. Had it landed in the water, it would have been very devastating in terms of a tidal wave and some impact energy for maybe 150 miles in each direction, but that's about all it would have done. It certainly wouldn't have destroyed the dinosaurs. But because it hit at the right time with the power that it did, it sent up a blast that literally made the earth practically burst into fire. It was so hot. It's hard for us to be able to visualize that, but that's what happened. And then immediately after that, of course, the whole earth was covered with ash and that which blocked out the sun, which then made it very cool. So that some 75% of all the life on earth was wiped out. So, I've shared all that with you today to affirm that the earth has a purpose on Earth Day, and it is for the evolvement of the Christ idea. And because it has that purpose, God will see that that purpose is fulfilled. And when you read our current news and listen to the discussion on climate change today, you can be sure that those conditions are going to be worked out. Not probably by another asteroid, no other asteroid, I don't think, because God now has us as instruments to work through to make the corrections that are necessary. And I think we will. I think we're moving slow, but we will. But I primarily want to affirm for you that you can know that not only is God personally involved with you, but God also is personally involved in the well-being of the earth. It is God's earth, and God is in charge. So, it's possible I could give this talk somewhere and somebody could hold up their hand and said, frankly, I don't believe in God. And the reason I don't believe in God is because if there was a God, do you think that he would let people use gas and chemical to destroy children? I've seen the pictures of it. Where is your God? Well, I've said, as far as I know, God's only interceded once in the affairs of earth. How's this work? Why doesn't God intercede and destroy the monsters, human monsters of the earth? When I was first in the ministry in Seattle a few years back, I had a woman coming to me, a very beautiful African-American woman, who had her own very successful business, interior decorator. And she came to see me because she said, my son is the sadness of my life. Because she said, he had a fabulous education, and then I brought him into my business, and so he has a place there and a regular salary. She said, but he drinks all the time, and he's totally unreliable. And I've told him, that he's got to straighten out. But he says, it just goes on and on. And I remember saying to her, the reason that he's not getting any better is because he's got to do it himself, and you're not making that possible. You're providing him the job and the money to drink with, and when he gets himself in trouble, apparently you bail him out and comes back to work and repeats the same thing over and over again. I said, if you love your son, you will let him go. And I remember the analogy jumped in my mind. I said, if you happen to be walking, after you've fired him from his job, because he wasn't doing it well, and told him it was up to him, if you were walking down the street and you found him lying drunk in the gutter, you've got to walk on by. About 6 months later, she came back to me and she said, I just got back from Hawaii. And she said, who met me? I said, no. She said, my son. And she said, he's the one that took me to the airport too. I said, tell me. She said, I fired him. And I told him, it's up to you, you're on your own. She said, it wasn't easy, but I meant it. She said, I didn't pursue him, but one day I learned he had another job. He had passed all the tests with the government for the Postal Service. And I don't remember what the job was, but it wasn't a mail carrier, it was something better than that, because he had a great education. Anyway, he turned his whole life around. Would he have turned his life around had she continued to save him? No. So when we look at the big question of God and the earth and humanity, you realize, as Jesus tried to help us to understand, our relationship to God is just like parent to children. I don't think it was by chance that Jesus called God Father. God is our Father. Father and Mother God. God is our parent. And so, if we're to ever know the Christ Spirit within us, we have to work out our own realization of what our inner capacities are. That's what it's all about. And so, God does not intervene and keep people from using gas to destroy each other, because that causes an energy in the world, as it has in our nation, because I presume, and maybe I've touched on a sensitive button here, but I presume all of you are behind the fact that we have to let the world know we cannot tolerate that. There was a day when the world would have looked the other way. Literally. There was a day when cruelty among human beings was taken for granted. Today we can't accept that, because we, as evolving souls, are accepting the reality of our Christ being, which is oneness with love. Our natural nature is absolute love. There was something on the internet yesterday where these people were standing up against the neo-Nazi group that were gathering, and there was one young woman holding up a sign, and it said, I may not have the adjective right, but absolute, what is it?
It said unconditional.
That's it, unconditional is what, yeah. She was holding up a sign, unconditional love. We live in that age now where that's happening, and there are people all over Europe who feel the same kind of thing. The only answer is unconditional love. We've evolved in that because God has not intervened all the time and said, I'll wipe out the enemies for you and all. You've got to discover the way to overcome. You've got to discover you have a power of unconditional love. I think I'm coming to the end, but I just want to add, unconditional love, of course, begins at home. And sometimes it's easier to have unconditional love for them folk out there than it is for this folk right here. And so I'm going to close on that note that nothing is more important for the evolution of the well-being of the earth for you to love yourself with unconditional love, so that you can let the wonder of your being express so fully. Let's take a moment and just give thanks. On this Earth Day, that we are blessed with the realization that this is God's earth, and it has a divine purpose that is being fulfilled, and that we are part of that fulfillment today. Thank you, God. Thank you for the wonder of it all. Amen.
child of this universe. The ocean dances at my feet. The wind plays a melody through my hair. I am loved at every turn. I am kissed by Mother Earth. I am a child of this universe. The sun warms me in its embrace. The stars have a light for me in the sky. I am honored by all life. I am held by Father Time. Every blade of grass, every shaking leaf on the tree, every mountain top sings of the glory of God moving through me, moving through you. Oh. I am a child of this universe. Through my breath, all of life can breathe. I plant the seeds with my every dream. I can love at every turn. Give a kiss to Mother Earth. Yes, I am a child of this universe. I greet the God in each face. I am a channel for peace to flow. Oh, I honor all life. Yes, I'm one with Father Time. To every blade of grass, to every shaking leaf on the tree, to every mountain top, I sing of the glory of God moving through. Moving as me. Moving as you. Moving as
As we prepare for meditation, go ahead and sit back in your chair. Take anything off your lap. Place your feet flat on the floor. And if you're comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. Just relax your body. Relax your shoulders. Still your thoughts and just release any tension. Take a deep breath in through your nose and let it out with a sigh. Just let these feelings of release infuse your body with a gentle calmness. As we relax, we experience the peace that only the presence of God can bring. I'm a child of the universe, born of Mother Earth and Father Sky. Can you see yourself as a child of the universe? How does that look? As a child of the universe, we can trust that everything we need is available. We simply trust that the universe will provide every opportunity and every possibility for us to experience happiness. Again, relax and picture yourself as a child of the universe. Hold that picture as you listen to these words and feel them as your own. Go placidly among the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others. Even the dull and ignorant, they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. For many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love. For in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not stress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt, the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul. Well, if all of its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Max Erdmann, The Desiderata, published in 1927. Thank you, God. I am a child of the universe. Thank you for peace, prosperity, health, happiness, and freedom in my life now. Go ahead and return your thoughts now to this room. And when you're comfortable, go ahead and open your eyes. And let's declare together, I am a child of the universe. I am a child of the universe. I am here by divine right. I am here by divine right.